For the first time in a long time, I was glad to see that it was raining. P21 and Glory were arguing about leaving me down there. Lacuna looked politely disengaged from their squabble. Scotch was fiddling with Glory's busted beam rifle. At the sight of Rampage and me, Glory started towards me, but I warded her off with an upraised hoof. "One sec. I'm coated in magical death juice." She looked like she wanted to hug me anyway. "Oh, was it that bad?" she asked as she chewed on her lip. I glanced at Rampage and passed a knowing look to her. Glory didn't need to know the details. "Well, we were underground, so yeah, pretty unpleasant." I took off the helmet after the downpour had washed most of the rainbow stuff away and then unsealed the suit. Her eyes widened even more as I let the rain wash off the rest of the filth. Not for the first time, I missed the wonders of civilization. Like soap. I found out something interesting, though. I levitated my saddlebags and took out the black case. This seems to be the source of most of my taint. I popped it open and lifted the bullet free. See this half? All full of pure taint. But why? Is it some sort of chemical shell?" Glory asked. My pip buck started ticking. "It's an annihilation shell, Glory. Putting poison inside would be like putting a BB gun on a tank," P21 said archly. I spoke quickly to head off the argument. "It also has this inside," and I held up the little white crystal. "You know gems." I floated the crystal to her. "Well," she turned it over. "It's hexagonal. It might be a quartz. Looks like a talisman, but there's no glyph for the spell inside." She held it up to P21, but the blue buck just frowned and shrugged. She tossed it back to me, and I caught it with my magic. I sighed and lifted the silver bullet next to the glowing stone. "Well, whenever this thing blows, it soaks every inch of me in taint. Heck, you know how it surrounds me with that magical field? It probably holds all that taint residue, which means I exposed all of you when I fired it underground." Scotch tape whipped her hoof. Okay. What the heck actually happened down there? Because every time you say underground, my mane stands on end." And she was scared. I could see it. She might not remember going down there, but some part of her knew it was bad. P21 frowned and looked away. I just sighed and smiled. Long story short, bad stuff happened. Really, not fun. "You didn't miss much," I said, but she hardly looked satisfied. Okay, something to deal with later. Anyway, Trottenheimer made these bullets. Why, I have no idea. Apparently, it was right before the bombs fell. They cut one open down in the lab and sprayed everything with taint juice. So, not going to use it again. Bad bullets. And I smiled as I tapped the stone to the side of the bullet. Then it exploded. Of course it exploded. I couldn't take a dump without it. Okay, I could. But still, this was ridiculous. At least it wasn't a full-off, blowing off my hooves explosion. Really, it was just a flash and a pop that sent the silver bullet one way and the stone the other. Me? I was flat on my back in the middle, listening to my pip buck screech. Wait. I stared at the rad readout as I watched the needle visibly rise. Lacuna groaned, her eyes closed with the expression of bliss and a blush on her cheeks. I was getting almost 20 rads a second. The amount was dropping fast, but holy shit. "Right away, gimme!" I shouted as I dug through my saddlebags. "Every pony, drink some if we have enough." One dose of Radaway later, I was stabilized. The Glory insisted I have one extra. It was hard to argue, that stuff was delicious. I picked up the stone and saw a tiny scuff where I'd tapped it. I retrieved the bullet and saw that the very polished silvery metal had a tiny indentation. All that from a tap. "How the heck does this bullet have a stone inside if they explode on contact?" I asked, as I put the bullet back into its case. I didn't want to send the damn thing off just by touching one another. Perhaps the taint solution only acts as a neutral buffer. If they cannot come in contact with each other, they cannot react, offered Lacuna. It was the best suggestion I could think of. Still, though, I'd traded the mystery of the silver bullet for the mysteries of the metal, the stone, the taint, and the reason why the hell any pony would ever make a weapon like that. One that killed its wielder? I could see folly on a tank or some power-armored gun, but it was a pistol. Had Trottenheimer been exceptionally poorly endowed or something? Thank you, Hoovington, I thought, as I finished washing myself. Then I paused. I looked at my legs. My hide had been white before, but now my legs were piss yellow, and there were ugly purple bruises at the ends of my hooves. I saw a little growth poking out the side of my fetlock. Just a little teardrop-shaped thing, an inch or so long, and poking about 1/4 of an inch out of my leg. Then I spotted another, and another. Suddenly, I became aware of every pony staring at me. Only Glory was actually looking, but the rest had obviously just found other things to stare at while they paid attention to my tumors. I felt ugly, unclean, worse than just the mess I had made of myself. I was suddenly aware of how slat-sided I had become. I was still eating, but it seemed like all the food was going somewhere else. I felt like I was becoming something less than a pony and more like those poor creatures in the lab. I felt my security barding in place and strapped it down over my braces, keeping my eyes low. Don't look at me. Please don't look at me. I decided to hold on to the hazmat barding. It might come in useful later. You never knew when you'd have to descend into a taint-saturated hole of nightmares. Sweet Celestia, some pony shoot me if I ever say that again. Well, at least I'd gotten one mystery solved, and 4 more added. Frustrating as that might have been, though, it did take my mind off that. God, this is how I hated this place. I honestly preferred running from Deus. That was a threat I understood. A great big cyber pony who wanted to rob me, rape me, and kill me. He was something to run away from or destroy. Things I could do. Now, though, I needed to keep going. I'd fall apart if I simply stopped and let everything catch up to me. I wasn't that far from Horizon Labs to the Iron Mare Naval Base. In pre-war times, we probably could have made it in an hour. In pre-war times, though, we wouldn't have been able or been trying to evade patrols of Steel Rangers, mobs of Reapers, and the occasional Manticore flying overhead. We finally reached the base, fortunately without being spotted. The place was laid out more or less like Rampage's indicated, and the half-crumpled building that looked like a cake dropped on its side was impossible to miss. Now, we just had to get as close as possible to Elder Crunchy Carrots before being discovered so that Steel Rain couldn't make us disappear. Then, hopefully, we'd be able to convince her to stop the war, and after that, we'd be able to find something that would tell me where EC-1101 was supposed to go next. But really, what was the point? I was dying, and even if I found out where to go next, even if I stopped this war, I'd still be dying. I felt it. Everything inside me just felt wrong. This didn't feel like my body anymore. This body felt old and tired and used up. An aching old bag of hurt. No matter how fast I went, it would still be with me. This was one thing that I couldn't leave behind. I was going to die. But if I was, then I wanted my life to mean something. Something to make up for all the ponies I'd hurt and killed. It wouldn't be enough. It would never be enough. Something to atone for the pain I'd caused all my friends. Something so that, when I died, I might have a chance at the afterlife, or something better than what I thought I deserved. Finding EC-1101 and Horizons might not matter at all, but the alternatives was to either give in and accept Sanguine's tempting offer, or give up and wait to die. All in all, Death by a ranger's shell sounded better. We were passing more atrocities. Rows of dead ponies pressed to a wall and then drawn through with lines of gunfire. Most of them didn't look like reapers. They looked like dirty, desperate ponies caught in the middle of something that was chewing every pony up. The rangers hadn't even bothered to loot the bodies. I looked the other way while P-21 went about that job. My shotgun had gotten cooked, so I was left with Vigilance and Taurus's rifle. While caps were getting pretty much worthless to me, my friends would need them after I was gone. We disguised Lacuna as well as we could. Her black dress had been lost, but we'd found some canvas that we could use to hide her wings. Hopefully, no pony would wonder why she was half again taller than Rampage. The goddess was clearly ignoring us, given that there wasn't a single telepathic murmur about the indignity of hiding her wings. I picked up telepathic murmurs every now and then about that little mare and what they were going to do when she arrived, though. Apparently, it was quite a debate between putting her in unity, killing her, or just using her. I tried to tune it out as best I could. I had enough problems myself. And I wasn't the only one. As we crept along the main street of Ironmare Town, I spotted the red bars around the corner, and a group of blue non-hostiles. I waved the others to stop and carefully poked my head around the ruined wall. The blue bars were a small family making their way towards us from the east with a Brahmin behind them. They looked desperate, their eyes alert, but they didn't have a magic EFS that could see through walls. And the red bars... Well, looky here, Crumpets. Reaper spies, if I ever saw some, a mare said, her voice amplified by the speakers on her power armor and echoing down the side street she was trotting up. We're not spies, the buck in the lead on the small band protested. We're just trying to get home. We live in Toll. Please, we've been stuck out here for days. The others began to shy back, all except for a unicorn mare who seemed quite amused by all this. They don't look like spies, Shrapnel, murmured the other ranger mare in a doleful voice. Are you certain? Look, that just means they're good spies. Shrapnel laughed. I know you're used to dealing with things differently in Trottingham, Crumpets, but this is the hoof. Shoot first, shoot last. Let the goddesses sort 'em out. Well, fuck me if I was going to let that happen. Hey! I yelled as I trotted around the corner. Yoo-hoo! Much better target here. Blackjack, you idiot. P-21 growled as he limped out after me. Great. More nut jobs, Shrapnel said, turning towards me. Grenade, machine gun, and missile launcher configuration. Who are you supposed to be? She said as she took a look at me. 3 magic bullets to the head. I could drop her. I could end her life, even at this range. So why was I hesitating? After all the shit I'd gone through today, why didn't I just end her there and then? She was scum threatening a family. You don't kill ponies to save ponies. Security saves ponies. And I was security. I suppose that also meant that I was a damned idiot, too. I'm security, I said, thinking that should be obvious, but then my barding was shot, I had braces taped to my limbs, and I was using a hunting rifle to threaten a mare with a missile launcher strapped to her sides. Really, I added. You're either crazy or stupid, Shrapnel murmured. Crazy. Definitely crazy, P-21 muttered. But either way, you're fucking dead, she shouted, and I sighed. Sorry, Fluttershy, I wanted to do better. I tried.